try and make it quick so we can go about our business and continue on things.
Did it just start?
As normal. Yeah, Borath, we just started, bro.
Sprinting back from the grocery store.
No worries. Alrighty. Okay, so last meeting's side of things, we covered the necessary doctrines. Hakonen here will be passing off the doctrines you need in your hangars available for wartime stuff. That'll be in the announcements later on, which ones they are. It will be the wild dogs specifically across the board, Minmatari and variants, so you can make sure that you're oriented towards alliance specific training like the CFIs and that sort of stuff across the board, and you'll be able to utilize those. Just make sure you have at least ideally you want to have 2 of each, so 2 DPS, 2 Logi, 2 tackle, dictors, and a pair of scanning ships. All of these are relatively cheap on the Wild Dog side, between 30 to 50 mil each, so it's relatively inexpensive. For those of you who are on the newer side, you will need to go ahead and make your own T1 variants. I've gone through and sat with Jason Vazia, and they've also concluded this was the best course of action to ensure that, one, you guys are theory crafting properly, so that there's no consistent need for reliance when it comes to this sort of stuff. And from there, you're able to mitigate any necessary or unnecessary strain on the corporation when it comes to being like, hey, how do I fit this sort of thing? You got to start figuring the fuck out, basically, without being too nice about it. Now, another thing I want to go ahead and move forward to, which is the second topic on hand, is how many people we are killing across the board. Now, I've noticed we have been doing decently in the last month. This month has also increased a good amount, but not as much as I'm sitting happy with. And this is predominantly to do with the fact I know folks have been having IRL stuff, as well as other sorts of things. We had a couple of new members that we welcome on board now, Snail accordingly as well. I want to try to make sure across the board that folks have an understanding of which ships to respond to different threats with. So what I'll be doing, as I got a couple of days free here before I basically clock off to work, because I'm starting that on next Fridays apparently, according to my manager. So what I'll be doing is I'll be making sure that I give you guys a base understanding of which ships to respond to which sort of threat. I know Jace previously, I'm just going to use you as an example here primarily because you're talking about which drones apply to which sort of ships. So I'll be doing a very brief rundown of which ships and what sort of weaponry applies to which sort of stuff, and the scenarios in which you can go ahead and utilize those, so that you don't need me specifically or anybody else to help you orient that stuff. It's really important that you get into this sort of mindset where you know how to thrive and survive on your own. The reason for this isn't because you're going to be a band or anything shit like that. It's just in case if you get into situations where you're by yourself and there's nobody around to assist you or immediately assist you, you know how to defend yourself. That's the key component that I want to instill in all of you guys across the board. So that will be pushed along. As that gets pushed along, I'm hoping to see an uptick on you guys killing things across the board. Which moves us on to our third topic, which is the upcoming war and the amount of enemies and stuff that we have. Now, you guys have noticed recently we've had Coven consistently in the area. We've also had Horde, Frat, and a couple of other guys around the place as well. Now, Horde and Frat have been a little less abrasive in the last, I'd just say, week and a half-ish. Coven themselves have started coming back. We've also seen Maracuga in between between the days that we've gone to hide the last 2 weeks or so, and that's been an uptick also. What I want you guys to get used to is I will start putting up projects, because the first couple we've done as a test, just a little bit of a meme to see if they would work, and I'm glad people are projecting onto those properly. In the future, in the next month or so, is what I'm guessing here. You will see properly paid for projects that are in the multiple billions being assigned by me, and they will be for killing things across the board. I will list down entities that you will be hunting and killing in our space. You're welcome to go out the space and do it as well. There's also going to be corporate mining specific operations to help begin hoarding the necessary ore and minerals that we're going to need for capital production in the future. I will be assigning those when I have the ability to do so, but that will be in about a month from now when I've got the surplus amount of ISK to throw at it. And they will be in the multiple billions, so look forward to that one. Going to go ahead and move swiftly onwards to our fourth topic here, which is to do with faction war. As we mentioned in the previous meeting as well, I'm going to be going ahead and reiterating the necessity for this, as well as why I've got you guys out there in the first place. So the reason for it, the reason why we pushed for faction warfare, specifically the Angels in the first place, is one, we've seen the markup of the ship costs themselves when it comes to actually being built. The build costs for these are in the range of 500 to 750 million, which is within the prediction rate that I had assumed before they came out. The other factor to take into account is once they are being built and they're being sold on the markets, they're going for around about $1 billion a pop for the cruise and above, the battle cruise and above. That's what we're seeing here as a markup price. For the amount of LP that you guys are gaining every time you have, a site cleared in the faction warfare space, you're making so much potential income out of this by just being there doing a site or two. It's incredible the amount that you can pull in from there. What I highly suggest, because I personally will not be around in the next coming weeks due to work, so I'll have Hakonen and Borath and a couple of the boys helping you out with things. Take your own initiative on the faction warfare side of things. If you don't see pings from any of us, take the initiative, go out there, make sure you encourage one another to go out there, continue the camaraderie that you're already doing, push for the faction warfare as much as possible. The more you are able to go out there, the more you're able to get onto the Angel fleets and push that sort of stuff and continue hoarding the LP that you're getting, the more you're going to be able to go ahead and get things like Kizreels and other sorts of ships across the board. The more you're able to go ahead and hoard those blueprints, the better we're going to be able to stockpile our stuff, because they will be usable in combat, believe me, when the actual price tag of things begins to deflate eventually. Obviously, go ahead and make your money now with that sort of stuff whilst you've got the ability to do so. I'm not going to stop you doing that. And the Corp isn't going to tax you on the amount of money that you make on any of that sort of stuff, besides the LP, of course. Go ahead and make that, stockpile it, sell it to the boys as you need to the Alliance, to the Coalition, whatever it is. Make your money. And then as you're making that sort of stuff, make sure you leave behind at least a couple for yourselves so that you have some of those ships laying around, because they are going to be utilized later on down the game, and there's more to that one later, but I won't reveal everything right now. This moves us on to the final section, which is propaganda and social culture. Now, one thing I've noticed is there are a few of us who are making videos, making memes, making things on newspapers and stuff. Folks have been trying to get in that and give it a go, which is fantastic. I love seeing that. I'd just love to see a little bit more. I think the one thing we're lacking as a corporation across the board isn't necessarily camaraderie, because we have a lot of that. We have a lot of boys, we have a lot of us shit talking and having a giggle, and that's just great. But I'd love to be able to see it in a more contextualized format, so that we have things that we can spread across the board, right? Memes are great, videos are great. It can't just be like one person doing it and that sort of stuff. Just make things in your spare time. If you feel you want to, then go for it. If you don't feel you want to, then it's fair enough. But have kind of the necessary love that you have for the guys to come on and do the things we do, your industry, your PvP, your fleet projection, teaching folks, all that jazz. Put it into little bits of artwork. Like, the stuff that you see someone like Torek doing, for example, or Kalana with the newspaper things, and just push that sort of stuff. More embroiderment within the culture that we have is going to continue investing in one another, and the more you push that, the better it's going to get. Final thing I wanted to add, I know quite a few of the guys in leadership, myself included, put out a bunch of different posts and pings on either a sort of daily basis or a couple of days and that sort of stuff to do with announcements, pings, meetings, that sort of jazz. Just make sure if you are not already doing so that you look at the ping, react on it with an emoji so that we have an understanding that you have read it. We're not going to be able to know if you read it and you acknowledge that the post has existed if you don't click on the emoji. Please get into the habit of doing that consistently. It just makes our lives a little bit easier so we don't need to chase people and be like, hey, do you know that this is happening or that's happening, and so on and so forth. The more active you are about this sort of stuff, the easier it's going to be to continue along the path. Everyone's here to make money, everyone's here to have a good time, but at the same time, we also need to ensure that we're pushing ourselves as a collective rather than an individual basis. And I don't mean that in the sense that individuality doesn't count. I mean in the consensus that if there are projects that we all want to go ahead and accomplish, we need everybody there to be able to accomplish it, and we cannot do so if there's no notion of the active participation from folks who are, there to go ahead and take that stuff on board.